Former Israeli National Security Advisor to Prime Ministers Bennett and Lapid, Eyal Hulata, joins us now to discuss. Thanks so much for being here. So historically speaking, Prime Minister Netanyahu, has he been willing to jump into these high-risk military operations like this one that it looks like Israeli forces are about to do? This is high risk to send ground forces into Gaza. I mean, Hamas had to have known that that's what they were going to do, so they have to be prepared. This is really dangerous stuff. Or is he typically, Netanyahu, despite his bluster, is he typically more cautious?
Right. So, first, I mean, Netanyahu has been prime minister for so long. Of course, there were events during his time as well. Protective Edge in 2014, Netanyahu was prime minister. And Israel went into Gaza with a 40-day campaign. We didn't call it a war, even though it was for 50 days. It's true that the last campaign that Israel calls a war, second Lebanese war, was in 2006, and Ehud Olmert was prime minister in the north, in Lebanon. It's true. I mean, Netanyahu is known to be a security guy, but also very risk averse. I think at this point, there's just no other choice. I mean, the magnitude of brutality is so enormous, and the sentiment and the consensus in the Israeli community society is so large. I think there's no other way but to fulfill the goals that he put and his cabinet put to this war, and that is to get rid of Hamas as ruler of Gaza. You
call him Mr. Security, or that's that's how he paints himself. But I've heard from a lot. I know there's a lot of support for him right now because of what happened, and people want Hamas destroyed, eliminated. But I've also heard from a lot of Israelis who are wondering about that Mr. Security label because of what happened October 7th. Where was the IDF? Where was the protection? Why did it take so long to get there? I know people say those are questions for later, and I understand that, but those are some troubling questions.
There are, and I think they go from the IDF and all the way to the top. I was National Security Advisor. The responsibilities of a Prime Minister are very, very clear. The responsibility of the cabinet are very, very clear. And of course, there is responsibility on the security establishment, on the IDF, on the Shin Bet, and on all of them. Head of the IDF went to the public and said that he takes responsibility. And so did head of Shin Bet, and so did head of military intelligence. And it's quite clear in Israel, it's very simple. And I think Netanyahu knows that very, very well. The responsibility goes all the way to the top. This will be dealt later, but I think the society of Israel is looking for leadership.
Do you think there is going to be pressure from President Biden, from Western leaders, people who are standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel and with Netanyahu now, once Israeli forces go into Gaza, and I'm assuming that is going to happen, and the war gets bloody, even bloodier than it is now, and Israeli forces start being killed? Because we've had generals on this show compare this to what the U.S. faced in Fallujah, except that the U.S. was facing former Iraqi soldiers in Fallujah, and these are Hamas terrorists. Yep. They're not going to even abide by normal rules of warfare.
Yeah, they don't abide by rules of warfare, and they also don't abide by the truth. I just saw what in the end of the previous piece, Alex presented here very thoroughly. The evidence, the CNN has also
collected. That's just the public evidence.
Yeah, that's public evidence. I mean, it calls for two things. One is maybe you can put trust in the Israeli and American administration that say, based on intel, that this was them who did it. But the other thing is they lied deliberately to the international community, to the international media. They will sabotage any story. They will spin everything just to make us look bad. And you're right. This is what we're facing. And I think it's important that the international community and the international media and public understands what Israel is facing. Everything we will do, we will get blamed on. Even things we don't do, we get blamed on. And I truly hope that we will continue to get the international support that we're getting. President Biden went out of his way to put the support to the Israeli people, making them understand that he has our back. Because I think President Biden understands this is a different story. European Parliament said that. The EU leadership said that. Hamas must be eradicated and removed from leadership of Gaza. They lost their legitimacy to rule their own people. Israel needs to make this happen. I hope. This is one of the reasons I'm speaking also here. I think it's very, very important the audience understands we will need international support because this will be bloody.
Eyal Hulata, please come back. We'd love to talk more to you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.